Something has shifted, not around you, inside someone. In the last few days, maybe even hours, a person who has been quietly watching your life from a distance has crossed a line inside their own mind, a line they cannot uncross. And right now, as you're sitting here watching this, they are somewhere thinking about you in a way that is making them feel almost unsteady, like the ground beneath them just moved slightly, like they looked at your name or heard something that reminded them of you and felt a sensation in their chest they have no words for. They haven't told anyone. They wouldn't even know how. But something is building, something that has been building for longer than they've admitted to themselves. And it is about to come out in a way that is going to surprise you. And honestly, surprise them too. Stay with me, because this reading today is one of those ones I almost didn't know how to start. Okay, so welcome if this is your first time here. Before I get into this reading, I have to tell you something that happened to me yesterday, because I genuinely think it's connected to why this energy came through the way it did. I was sitting in my kitchen in the morning, just having coffee, and I wasn't doing anything in particular. I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't watching anything. I was just sitting there. And out of nowhere, I got this very specific feeling. You know that feeling where you just know someone is thinking about you? Not in a spooky way, just in this quiet, heavy way where suddenly someone's face appears in your mind and you didn't invite it there. Like your brain received a signal you didn't ask for. And I sat with that for a little while, and I thought about how strange it is that we can feel someone else's emotional state without them being in the room, without any message, any call, any sign. Just this invisible current that runs between people who are connected in some way. I kept thinking about it all afternoon, about how many people carry feelings they never say out loud, how someone can be completely calm on the surface, posting on social media, going about their day, while internally, they are in the middle of a quiet storm, replaying things, questioning things, feeling pulled somewhere they keep trying to walk away from. And then I sat down to pull for this reading. And everything that came up was exactly about that, about someone who is carrying something enormous, someone who has been holding it together, holding it in, and who is reaching a point where they simply cannot anymore. So if you felt called to this video today, I want you to know, this is not a coincidence. This reading is for you. Let's get into it. The first thing I need you to understand is that whatever has been going on between you and this person, the silence, the distance, the confusion, all of that has been doing something to them that they did not anticipate. When you stopped reaching out, when you pulled back, when you got quiet, they expected to feel relief. Or maybe they expected to feel nothing, because they had convinced themselves what they felt for you wasn't that significant. They had a whole internal story built around why you weren't the right person, or the right time, or why it made more sense to keep their emotional distance. And then you got quiet, and that story fell apart. Because the moment you stopped being available, stopped being the one who was always there, something inside them woke up, not slowly, almost suddenly, like they reached for something that had always been in their hand and realized it was gone. And the absence of you hit them in a way your presence never quite did. This is the psychology of emotional unavailability. And it is one of the most paradoxical things about human attachment. People do not fully value what they feel certain of. The moment certainty disappears, the nervous system wakes up. The emotional brain starts firing. And suddenly, this person who thought they were fine, who maybe even told themselves they were fine, is lying awake at 2 a.m. with your face in their mind, feeling something they cannot explain away. You became real to them in a way you weren't before, and that terrified them. Here's the first thing I want to tell you that you may not have expected. This person has already made a decision about you. Not consciously, not in a way they could write down or say out loud, but somewhere deep in their mind, in the part of them that acts before the rational brain catches up, they have already chosen you. The move they are about to make is not something they planned. It is something that has been building so long that it is now simply spilling over. Let me walk you through what's actually happening inside this person right now, because the energy around them is layered and complicated, and I want you to understand it fully. On the surface, they appear normal, maybe even fine. If you looked at their life from the outside, you wouldn't see anything unusual. They are functioning. They are present in their daily life. But internally, they are running a kind of low-grade obsession that they have become skilled at hiding, even from themselves. It starts with small things. They will hear a song and think of you, not dramatically, just quietly, just a flicker. Then they scroll past something, a place, a phrase, a color that you once mentioned. And there you are again, uninvited, in the middle of their afternoon. At first, they dismiss it. They tell themselves it's nothing. The mind wanders. That's normal. But then it happens again, and again, and again. And now it's not a flicker anymore. Now it is a current running just below the surface of everything they do. You have embedded yourself into their subconscious in a way they cannot locate or remove. You are in the background of their thoughts, the way music is in the background of a film. Not always in the foreground, but shaping the entire emotional tone of everything they're experiencing. They are replaying conversations you had, and not just the good ones. They are replaying moments where they were cold or distant or dismissive and feeling something uncomfortable about it now. Something like regret, but more restless, like shame mixed with longing. Like they can see clearly now, in retrospect, that they handled something wrong, and they cannot stop themselves from returning to it. They are asking themselves questions. Did I push them away? Did I say something that changed things? Do they still think about me? Would they even want to hear from me now? And what is so important for you to understand is that these questions are not casual. They are not the idle wondering of someone mildly curious. These are the thoughts of someone who is deeply, quietly, almost desperately attached, and who is only now beginning to admit that to themselves. I want to talk about something that I think is going to bring a lot of clarity for a lot of you watching this. At some point, maybe recently, maybe a while ago, this person pulled back. They became distant, inconsistent. Maybe they went cold for a stretch of time, or they were hot and warm and present, and then suddenly they weren't. And you probably asked yourself what happened. Whether you did something, whether you misread the situation, whether their feelings were ever real to begin with. Here is what I want you to hear clearly. Their withdrawal was never about lack of feeling. It was actually almost the opposite. This person felt too much, and feeling too much, for them, was dangerous. It brought up things they weren't ready to look at: vulnerability, old wounds, the fear of being seen, really seen, and found wanting, the fear of needing someone and having that person leave, the fear of caring deeply in a situation they couldn't control. So they did what many emotionally overwhelmed people do. They created distance. They pulled the shutters down. They went logical, or casual, or busy. Not because you meant nothing to them, but because you meant something that exceeded what they knew how to handle at the time. The mixed signals were not manipulation. They were the external behavior of someone whose internal world was in conflict. Part of them wanted to lean into what they felt. Part of them was running from it. And you watched that play out in their inconsistency, their back and forth, their warmth followed by walls. But here is where it gets significant. They ran as far as they could. They gave themselves the distance. They gave themselves the time. They told themselves the feelings would fade, and the feelings didn't fade. They grew. What this person didn't account for is that genuine emotional attachment doesn't dissolve on command. You cannot logic your way out of a deep feeling. You cannot give yourself permission to stop caring about someone who has genuinely touched something real in you. And this person, despite everything they told themselves, made the mistake of caring about you in a real way, in a way that has roots. And now those roots are pulling. I want to be careful with the word obsession, because it can sound alarming. But what I mean by it here is something very human and very recognizable. This person thinks about you consistently, not once in a while, consistently. You are a presence in their inner world, even when you are physically absent from their life. They imagine scenarios. They imagine what it would be like to reach out. They draft messages in their head that they never send. They pick up their phone and put it back down. They come to the edge of action and then pull back over and over. They are watching your energy from a distance. That sounds almost spiritual, but it's also just true. They notice things. If you are mutual on social media, they are aware of you in ways you would probably find startling. Not in a frightening way, in the way that someone who is quietly, intensely invested watches. They notice when you post something different from usual. They notice your mood in what you share. They are reading the subtext of your presence because they are hungry for information about how you are. And here is the psychological layer underneath that behavior. You have become a symbol for them, not just a person, a symbol. You represent something they lost, or something they never let themselves have, or something they walked away from and have been quietly grieving ever since. When they think about you, they are not just thinking about you as an individual. They are thinking about a version of their life in which they made a different choice. A version where they let themselves be open instead of guarded, where they chose connection over self-protection, where they let something real in instead of keeping it at arm's length. You are, in their mind, the road they didn't take. And that is a very powerful, very heavy thing to carry. Here is where we are right now with this energy. And I want you to feel the weight of this because it is significant. Whatever they have been holding is reaching a kind of internal pressure point. You know, when you hold something tightly for a long time and eventually your hands just give? That's what's happening. They have been managing this feeling, containing it, keeping it behind a controlled surface. And that process is becoming increasingly difficult. The feeling is pushing through. You might start to notice things that seem small but aren't. A message that comes out of nowhere, not confessional, not dramatic, just a reach. A reason to make contact that seems casual but isn't casual at all. A comment, a reaction, a sudden reappearance after quiet. Something that feels like a test. They want to see if the door is still open without showing you that they're standing in front of it. They may act strangely. That's a phrase that sounds vague, but I think you'll know what I mean when you experience it. Something slightly off from their normal behavior. A little warmer than usual, or slightly more careful. Something in their energy that communicates, I am thinking about this, about you, and I don't know what to do with it. Some of you, the move they make will be a confession. Not necessarily a dramatic declaration, but an honesty that surprises both of you. A moment where something real comes through the surface without them fully meaning it to. An admission that sounds small, but is actually enormous, given who they are and how long they've held it back. Some of you, the move will be a withdrawal before the breakthrough. Right before someone crosses an emotional threshold, they sometimes pull back one last time, almost unconsciously, as if testing their own resolve. If this person goes quieter right before something shifts, do not panic. It is not an ending. It is the last exhale before something is finally said. They have imagined telling you how they feel. More than once. They have rehearsed it in their head. Not perfectly, but the outline of it, the sensation of it, what it would feel like to stop hiding this and just say it. And every time they have imagined it, part of them felt relief, which means part of them already knows that saying it is inevitable. The only question is timing. Let me spend some time here because I think this is a part that a lot of you need to hear. This person is afraid of you, not in a negative way, in the way that someone stands at the edge of something vast and beautiful and feels equal parts awe and vertigo. You represent depth to them, real depth. And depth is terrifying when you have been living in the shallow end for a long time, protecting yourself, keeping things manageable, only going as far into feelings as you can retreat from quickly. They are afraid that if they come to you with this, with all of this they've been carrying, you will not receive it well, that too much time has passed, that you have moved on, that the version of you they have been imagining in their private mind has already walked away in ways they can feel but cannot confirm. They are afraid of rejection in a way that is not simply ego. It is deeper than ego. It is the fear that this one specific person, you, will look at what they're offering and find it insufficient. That you will hear their confession and feel nothing. Or worse, that you will feel something but decide it's too late. That window closed. And so they hesitate. They circle. They approach and retreat. They find reasons to delay the thing they are already certain they need to do. There is also something else underneath the fear that I want to name carefully. They are afraid of what it would mean for their internal world if they actually let themselves have this. Because right now, the fantasy of you serves a function. You are the thing they want but haven't pursued. You are the feeling they haven't fully allowed. And as long as you remain slightly out of reach, they can hold on to you as a symbol of possibility, of the emotional life they could still choose. The moment they take real action, possibility becomes reality, and reality is vulnerable. Reality can be lost. So in a strange, painful way, they have been protecting their feelings for you by not acting on them. But that is changing now. I want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough in readings like this, which is the role of the unconscious mind in all of this. The rational mind can construct all kinds of walls. It can make arguments, build cases, list reasons, justify distance. But the unconscious mind doesn't care about any of that. The unconscious mind moves toward what it needs the way water moves downhill. Without strategy, without logic, simply following the deepest pull. And this person's unconscious is moving toward you. Every time their conscious mind talks them out of reaching out, their unconscious finds another way. A dream they wake up from and can't shake. A random memory of you surfacing in the middle of something completely unrelated. An inexplicable mood when they think about the possibility that you might genuinely be gone from their life. The unconscious speaks in feelings, not words, and it has been saying the same thing on repeat for a while now. This is unfinished. This matters. You need to address this. They cannot fully ignore it anymore. The pressure from below is becoming louder than the logic from above. This is what I mean when I say a breaking point. It is not dramatic or explosive necessarily. It is just the moment when a person can no longer pretend that their inner reality is not what it is. When the gap between how they are behaving on the surface and what they are actually experiencing underneath becomes unsustainable. They are going to stop pretending they don't feel what they feel. And when that happens, you are going to see a version of this person that they have never fully shown you before. The reason this move is going to surprise you is not just the action itself. It's who is doing it, because you probably stopped expecting this from them. You adjusted your expectations of them downward at some point, maybe to protect yourself. You decided what they were capable of emotionally, and you accepted a smaller version of them. And what is coming from them now is going to exceed that. It is going to make you reconsider everything you thought you knew about how they feel. I want to close this reading with something that I feel very strongly, and I want to say it slowly, because I think it needs to land. You are not simply a person to this individual. You are a turning point in their emotional life. I know that might sound like something people say to make you feel special, but I mean it in a specific psychological sense. There are certain people we encounter who arrive at a moment when we are ready, even if we don't know we're ready, to shift into a different version of ourselves. People who carry a kind of mirror, not a flattering mirror necessarily, but an honest one. And when we look into that mirror, we see something we can no longer avoid about who we are and what we want and what we have been afraid to reach for. You have been that mirror for this person. The silence you held, the dignity you kept, the way you stopped chasing when chasing became undignified. That did something to them. It showed them something about themselves. It revealed the gap between how they were treating something real and how they actually felt about it. And that revelation has been living in them, quietly devastating them since then. They are not the same person they were before they knew you. Not in dramatic ways maybe, but in the quiet internal ways that actually matter. Their emotional vocabulary has expanded. Their understanding of what they want from a relationship, from another person, from themselves, has deepened. You did that not by doing anything extraordinary, just by being genuine in a world where a lot of people aren't. The move they are about to make is, at its core, an act of becoming. They are moving toward you because moving toward you is the most honest thing they know how to do right now. It is them choosing to stop abandoning themselves. It is them deciding that feeling something real is worth the risk of losing the comfort of suppression. And regardless of what you choose to do, when that moment comes, whether you meet them where they are or whether you have moved so far forward that this no longer fits where you're going, I want you to know something. You were never nothing to them. You were the feeling they couldn't suppress, the name they couldn't stop thinking, the presence that stayed long after the conversation ended, the person who made them ask hard questions about themselves in the quiet of their own mind. That is not small. That is rare. So let me bring this home for you, because I know some of you have been sitting here trying to figure out who this is. And maybe you have an idea. Maybe it surprised you. Maybe it's someone you had started to count out. Someone you thought had long since moved on, or never cared that deeply to begin with. Let me tell you what I see in this energy clearly. This person is not going to be able to stay quiet much longer. The version of them that was managing, containing, suppressing, that version is exhausted. It has been doing a very demanding job for a very long time, and it is running out of energy. What replaces it is the version of them that feels. And when you meet that version, when it surfaces, in whatever form it takes, I want you to be grounded, not swept up in it, not flooded by it, not immediately pulled back into whatever pattern existed before. I want you to be present and curious and unhurried, because the most powerful position you can be in is not the one where you are relieved they finally came. It is the one where you are whole enough within yourself that their arrival, whenever and however it happens, does not undo you, where you can receive it clearly and decide from a place of clarity, not longing, not old wounds, not the part of you that still flinches, what you actually want this to become. You have already done the hard part. You held your ground. You kept your energy. You stopped performing for someone who wasn't showing up fully. And that right there is exactly what broke them open. You are someone's turning point. Now decide what you want to do with that. Thank you so much for being here. If this resonated with you, take a breath and just sit with it for a moment before the comments section pulls you away. What came up for you? Who came to mind? You don't have to share it if you don't want to. Sometimes some truths are just for you. I'll see you in the next one.